Hangman Adam Page kicked off this week's episode of AEW Dynamite for the big, oh my gosh, you did it, you won the Owen Hart Cup tournament, you are the best, and nobody is better than you. This is the wrestling way. Hangman is now just mega over, and of course he had the Owen Hart belt around his waist, where he essentially became Batman. Because it's like, sometimes we're victorious, and sometimes we get defeated, but all these moments are fleeting. But sometimes when you are defeated, you kind of stay in that longer than you would do when you are a winner. But what we have to remember is that it's not the wins and losses that matter, it's what you choose to do with it all. And over the last few years, this is what he forgot. I presume he found it behind the sofa. Page then thanked William Ospreay for giving him the fight of his life and reminding him what this is all about and how he can be the face of the company. When he was all like, let's go back to that whole victory-defeat thing. Obviously, next year I won't be the Owen Hart champion because somebody else will win it. I was like, Adam, not with that attitude. You're giving up already. You literally just told me that's the last thing you're going to do. I think his point was he's now only focused on the AEW World Championship, which has been trapped in a damn briefcase for the last few months. And given that on day one, he always wanted that gold, and he told the fans that they are his boss. If that's the case, I would like a pay rise, please, Mr. Page. And in 7 weeks, he is going to win this championship, and then he will defend it with his life. So this really was good, but then it got even better because Swerve Strickland came out. And if you were like me, you probably had all the fear. Because you're like, wait a minute, Swerve Strickland's there and Adam Page is there. We know how this goes. They're going to kill each other. Now they looked each other dead in the eye because that's what wrestlers do when they're trying to get serious. When Swerve became a detective, he was like, let's watch this footage from the April 9th, 2025 AEW Dynamite. And it was the Young Bucks saying, we cost Swerve the World Championship because we still love you, Hangman Adam Page, and we will always love you and we will make sure you get back to the world title. So Strickland was like, well, I smell something fishy and I think you are still in cahoots with the Young Bucks. I was like, Swerve, it makes sense. He had more evidence too because it was super duper convenient that at one point it felt like Page was going to be in Anarchy Arena, and then he got into the Owen Hart tournament, whereas it was Swerve that had to go and deal with Matthew and Nicholas Jackson. So he believes this is a plan that's been going on ever since before he was born, and it's not going to stand for it. He then basically straight up asked Hangman if this was the case, and Page was like, you are a dumbass. Do you remember that match? I came out and for a split second, I thought about attacking you when you were fighting Jon Moxley, and the reason I never did it and decided not to is because I made that choice, and if I had wanted to punch you in the face, that's what I would have done. Now, I want to make it very clear that Adam never actually said, no, I did not do this, so keep that in your brains. When Swerve went, man, you are full of shib. When Will Ospreay came out, I was like, man, this is the last thing we need. He's going to stoke the fires. It also kind of felt like he was a disappointed dad. Would you two just shut up? Actually, Ospreay did keep this family thing going because he was like, man, Swerve, you're like a brother to me. But come on, man, you've got the wrong end of the stick here. There is no way Hangman Adam Page is doing that. And let's go back to the pay-per-view. After he had beaten me, he was leaving. Then he came back and he shook my hand. I was like, well, I'm a big fan of yours, but that's all it takes to convince you that he's not evil. I have a terrific pyramid scheme I'd love to sell you. The point is, this is exactly how Ospreay felt after he had lost to Swerve Strickland. So look at the fans, man. Drink in their blood. He most definitely didn't say that, but as much as it hurts him to say it, at the moment it's not about Swerve. It's not about even William Ospreay. It's all about Hangman Adam Page. He is the chosen one. Between them as well, they only have one shot to stop the Death Riders, which didn't make any sense, because surely if Hangman loses, one of these can try again. And Strickland agreed with that because he slapped the microphone out of Will Ospreay's hands and said, I will never work with that man, which is when Will turned to Hangman and he said, sorry, William, don't want to be that guy. I don't want to work with him either. So this was absolutely fantastic, and not only told you who the top male babyfaces are right now in AEW, but it basically also set out our stall for the rest of 2025, and it's one of those wonderful, obvious storylines. Of course, Swerve and Hangman will work together to take down the Riders of Death, but the question is, how are they finally going to come together? Or why? It really should make for an awesome build then. And also, in terms of coming off one of the best main events we have seen at an AEW pay-per-view and ensuring you follow it up on Dynamite, well, this may actually be one of the best things All Elite Wrestling has ever done, because it made me go, well, I'm still buzzing from that fight, and now I really want to see where this is going to go. And as we'll talk about later on as well, AEW does have two choices, and actually we can tie it into WWE, because is All In going to be WrestleMania 39, or is it going to be WrestleMania 40? We will find out. This is getting an up. Sehr good. We then got highlights from Anarchy in the Arena, which really was one of the best matches so far of 2025. And then to follow up on that one, it was Gabe Kidd, Jon Moxley, and Marina Shafir taking on Willow Nightingale, Mark Briscoe, and Speedball Mike Bailey. And I was like, yep, That is the most babyface team I've ever seen in my life. Kid and Briscoe started by throwing bones, but it only took a few seconds before everybody was just fighting everybody else. When we got some dives, and I researched this, it's because it's 2025. That was Mike Bailey as well, and before he did do this, he pointed to the sky like Sabu. So I enjoy the fact these tributes do continue. When Moxley decided, well, I'm not into this, and he chopped his knee, so now Mike Bailey will never walk again. Marino even tagged in for a little bit and beat up Mark Briscoe. When Speedball remembered, you know I love so much, I really like the Karate Kid, so he was sweeping the leg. Now actually, if you go and watch the Karate Kid movies, that's what Johnny the bad guy does. So was that a Mike Bailey heel turn? I don't know. Willow and Shafir were then going at it, but Nightingale took her out with a spine buster when we saw that Chris Statlander was watching on. And I am kind of starting to think that we may do Chris versus Willow at All In. And if we do that, it should be for a championship, and we should make it absolutely massive. It could probably even have a stipulation. Those two are just good together. Willow then came back with a bunch of death lariats, which is when Wheeler Yuta was like, I'm gonna push a chair into the ring. I was like, why are you always doing this? When Kid threw Bailey through Alan the announce table, you know the deal. We went through our wrestling move book, and I was like, we're only like 8 minutes in, but I think they have done every single maneuver possible. Mark Briscoe then got the hot tag, and he quite literally runs wild because he's so damn good at this. When Wheeler was getting involved, the good guys took him out. When Mike Bailey was doing a bunch of dives again. But just when Mark was going to hit the J Driller, out came Claudio Castagnoli, and Commander must have been watching him because, of course, they're going to have a match on Collision, I think. And all of a sudden, he was doing a dive as well. So I was like, man, how is everybody involved in this? There was just too much chaos, and the Death Riders must have gone with the Dr. Robotnik technique, because essentially every single bad guy got every single good guy in a choke. I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but when you can't breathe, your brain says to you, I can't actually survive right now, and you pass out. That did happen, so this really was a bit of a mugging off, but it meant the Death Riders had won. But I did think you had to do this given the opening promo. It was a reminder to tell you, oh my gosh, they're dangerous. Made me laugh as well because Gabe Kidd got Mike Bailey in a chin lock, and I was like, oh no, the dreaded chin, but I am going to give it an up. It was essentially this week's party match, and I'm hoping that AEW can take every single thing here and build it into AEW All In. Forgot to say that bit. We shall see. The Hurt Syndicate were then talking after the pay-per-view, and MVP was like, oh my gosh, we have now defended our AEW Tag Team Championships 5 times. As MJF was like, man, Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin, you are the best. You're going to keep those belts forever. And soon I am going to go back after that World Championship. This is where my WrestleMania 39/40 thing comes in. Do we believe in any kind of a way that it could be the Hurt Syndicate and MGF that cost Hangman Adam Page because Maxwell is so obsessed with that championship? Like, there must be a reason he wanted to join up with Bobby Shelton and Umvup. There you go. I just threw that out there. It's probably a fantasy booking, and it's pretty stupid, but this did enter my brain, and now I'm going to say it on the off chance that I'm right. Megan Bayne and Penelope Ford then got super excited about beating up Harley, Cameron, and Anna Jay because, of course, they'd lost at the pay-per-view. The way they do promos is hilarious. Because one stands in front of the other one, Megan Bayne kind of stands at the back, and she always delivers one sentence, which is something like, I am going to rip your head off and murder your family. It's like, Megan, you need to calm down. Of course, this all ties into the conversation as well that maybe, just maybe, AEW is going to introduce some women's tag team titles. Now look, there are too many belts in the world of professional wrestling as it is, but I don't mind this as long as they are used, as long as we have a bunch of teams. So if you have planned out to the end of the year, fill your boots. When we got this skit backstage with Ricochet, and I have decided to be that guy, even though it doesn't actually make any sense. Because last week I went on my big song and dance about how I am starting Baldy. That's right, you can buy these t-shirts right now. Bald Aces Lecturing Dimwits Inc. That's right, we're an official company. It was just a way to try and take these full heads down. But now Ricky was here saying, man, I have seen all the groups running backstage in AEW, so now I'm gonna make my own. I was like, oh my gosh, is it gonna be full of bald people? And if it is, I would like to submit my resume. I am good to go. This ain't no shaved head. I genuinely don't have any hair. I'm an OG. Now, he did actually say the word crew a lot, so of course there is a team in AEW called CRU, that sort of crew, so maybe he's going to recruit them, but that would be a mistake. Ricochet absolutely has to recruit a bunch of bald guys just because it would make me laugh and also put me in the group. That's it. We wait and see. When we got that women's tag and it was a no DQ, why not? Now, once again, it was mostly here because Harley and Anna had won at Double or Nothing, so now Megan and Penelope were going to get their win back. Megan Bayne came to the ring with a golden chair. I was like, we don't need to do that. A normal chair is enough. Ford had a trash can as well, so Jay and Harley basically came out with some boards, which I guess is how it works when it comes to top trumps. And essentially, Megan was just absolutely destroying everybody in this match. Even when you did hit her, she was like, that can't harm me. When Anna Jay and Harley Cameron came together to give her a power bomb through a table to the outside. And even then, She was down for like 5 seconds, but she rose from the deep. All that really did too was piss off Megan Bayne, so man, she threw Harley Cameron into the steel steps, and it was one of the most vicious things I've ever seen in my life, and the medical team were checking up on her. Now, she did carry on this match, but there was a lot of damage to her face. I'm a little bit worried she broke her nose, so mostly I hope she is okay. And if she is okay, and we revisit this spot, again, it was absolutely brutal. Between all of that as well, Anna hit the gory special, but it was Megan Bayne again that broke that up when she was just going crazy with all of these chairs. So I was saying it again, listen to me, Megan, you really need to calm down. Doctors were then trying to help Anna as well, who had also been totally waylaid, when Penelope Ford and Megan Bayne were like, we're going to pick Harley Cameron up, and we're going to hit her with the Doomsday device. That's what they did, 1, 2, 3. So again, you can see what I'm getting at here. It feels like we're trying to build a division. But listen, this was so over the top and so mad, it was a bunch of fun as well. So we shall see what we do here, but the potential has been inserted into the wall. No idea what that means, but I am gonna give it an up, and this kind of works as a back and forth, because you had the bad guys, are definitely bad guys, and you have 2 good guys that you can properly like. I do believe that's the point. When I think somebody remembered that we do have Trios Championships, so out came the Opps to defend those belts. And it was against the Frat House. Now, I don't think they've been on Dynamite before, but they have been on other AEW shows. They have really wound up the internet. I gotta tell you, my friends, I think they are hilarious. They're just the worst people ever. If you do not know, it is Preston Vance, Cole Carter, and my man Griff Garrison, although who the flub is Griff Garrison, and Jack Jameson is their manager. He got a promo before this, just be like, oh man, your city sucks, and everyone that lives here is totally terrible. When they decided to get in Samoa Joe's face, and he absolutely wrecked him. Then Shibata chopped him, and Powerhouse Hobbs threw them around and gave them spine busters, and then after about 2 minutes, they pinned them for the 1, 2, 3. So this sounds way more disparaging than I mean it to, but in terms of a jobber group, to use the lingo, I actually think the Frat House is pretty damn good. Now, while the commentators did talk about Hook and what had gone down at Double or Nothing, I really kind of felt like we need to see him on this show, but we didn't. But that's a super interesting storyline, because it does feel like he is upset because he got replaced in the group so fast. So I hope we do get on that soon. You don't want people to forget. Once again, this was fun though, and I can never get mad about Samoa Joe being Samoa Joe and Power Hobbs looking like an absolute beast. This kind of goes back to what we were just talking about. We do not want the trios titles to be forgotten, so let's make sure they get into a super duper good program soon. But I am gonna give it an up. The Opps as a team just works. When? I don't know. I even wrote that in my notes. I don't know. So prepare yourself, because I don't know. Now the good news is Jamie Hayter has been put right into another program, and we talked about this on Double or Nothing Ups and Downs. It doesn't really matter if you do win or lose, as long as you do have something else to go. And here Renee Paquette was literally saying that, well, what are you gonna do next, Jamie? And she wasn't able to say anything because the lights went out. Now listen, I understand what they're doing, but the commentators are like, oh my gosh, it's a technical problem. That has to die in pro wrestling, because the lights go out all the time on every single show. We, the fans, know what's going on. You think by now the commentators would too. She was interrupted by that red spider, though, that we have seen climbing around on lower thirds over the last few weeks, meaning it was Thekla, and I think she must have taken out Jamie Hayter, but the camera missed the first shot, so Jamie Hayter was dead on the floor. When Thekla picked her up, she punched her in the face. When she did that spider pose, we've seen this before, it just looks really uncomfortable. Now the commentators did tell us that she had been fired from Stardom after attacking the company president, and I was like, yeah, that will do it. But here's the deal, I don't really know who Thekla is. Now that isn't a problem, because no wrestling promotion should be booking a show just for me. That would be nuts, and we did get enough information here, so you go, oh my gosh, I understood where she came from. But in terms of a superstar, well, yeah, it means nothing to me. This is the first time I've seen her. It just means that it's hard for me to be pumped about it, but of course there's going to be Stardom fans out there that are doing the dance of joy. This goes back to what I just said. I don't know, because I get it from another individual's point of view, but I'm not them and I'm me. We've entered the Phantom Zone. I mean, if you are a Thekla fan, you'll now be shouting at people. Trust me, there is no party like a Thekla party, and I do imagine these two are going to have great matches, because nobody in Stardom is bad. But once again, I, Simon Miller, feel completely neutral about this, because I just need a little bit more. And I do think AEW will jump on that next week. That's why at the moment, yes, I don't know. I can't up or down it because I am slap bang in the middle, but I am very happy that Jamie Hayter is going to stay on TV. I've already mentioned that twice. I'm not mentioning it again. I am, however, going to give it down, because next up it was Adam Cole versus Kyle Fletcher for the TNT title. And listen, this was super duper good, but let me tell you my geek point. Now, first and foremost, I love the fact that AEW doesn't overdo disqualifications, because it means when you want to do a DQ, you can get away with it. It's that classic old saying, less is more, and therefore if you do have to bust it out, it doesn't feel like you're just whacking somebody over the head again and again and again. The thing is, I just feel like we could have got more out of this, although admittedly I know nothing, but given that it is Adam Cole who knows how to talk and it's Fletcher who gets better every single week, I think you should have done a promo off here with Adam saying, this is my TNT title, and Carl being like, yeah, I know that, mate, but I want it. Then you could have done the match next week and you still could have done the disqualification, but then rather than jumping into it after a few days, you could have got 2 weeks out of it rather than 1. It also means you planted that seed and you have 7 days to get people all pumped up, and you could probably trick them. We are going to see a TNT title change. So when Josh Alexander does run in, which he did do here, you'd be like, you damn Josh Alexander, you took that away from me, so now I'm going to shake my hand at you like the lemon tree. So just for me, I am going to give it a down, but again, that could be a personal thing. But of course, as for the match itself, it totally ruled. It's Adam Cole and Fletcher. There was this one really scary moment when Carl, I think, went to do a powerbomb onto the apron. Adam Cole just landed horribly. But now look, I wrestle myself and I can tell you firsthand, sometimes you do see things, you're like, oh my gosh, that was an absolute mistake. But actually 2 people in the back have gone, listen, I've got this great idea and I think we can pull it off. So I suppose that just comes down to the illusion, although yes, on the other hand, sometimes you do try to do something and it totally goes wrong. But my point is, at the moment, we do not know, because again, I myself have come up with ideas and gone, listen, I actually think they'll buy that, and then you do it in the ring and people think you have made a mistake when actually you didn't at all. I mean, Sabu was the king of that. Sometimes he would botch on purpose just so you'd think he was an absolute loon. Now mostly, and this is the most important part before I go on my rant, I just hope that Adam Cole is okay. He has been through way too much recently. He deserves a little bit of a run. So as long as he is doing all right, I couldn't care about anything else. At the same time, these so-called, oh my gosh, I'm smarter than everybody wrestling fans, that then proceed to go and yell at other people when they don't agree with their opinion. Well, I rarely do this, but you know, it comes once a year like Christmas. Fuck you. That's right, I said it, because these people walk around like they're wrestling encyclopedias, like once again, I know everything, and then they act all shocked and surprised when the dangerous sport known as professional wrestling goes a little bit wrong. How can you act like you're some kind of savant and not understand that sports entertainment comes with a massive risk to it? Even a body slam, if it goes wrong, can be the worst thing ever. Thankfully, that doesn't happen a lot, but it totally could. So just take your faux nonsense and get out of here. And I want to make it very clear, I'm not saying you're not allowed an opinion. Everybody's allowed an opinion whether you wrestle or not. But if you genuinely cannot get over the fact that wrestling is dangerous or that mistakes can happen, I think you need to get in the ring just once, and all of a sudden you will finally get it and it will click in your head. Also, they don't mean it. They're just finding things to scream about. It's one of the dumbest things I've heard in a while. All right. Sorry about that, let's move on. But of course, the Paragon and the Don Callis family kept falling out on the outside because they were out there to support either guy. When my man Fletcher made the biggest of errors, because he started to pose when he was on top. I was like, Carl, what are you doing, man? You know what is going to happen here. And also, we've known each other for a little while. That's not true, but I was on a show with him back in the day, and he was actually one of the first people to be really nice to me in wrestling, which kind of ruins his gimmick. But when he turns around, Adam Cole was like, well, I've recovered now. I took my med pack. Super kick. Somehow he was able to reverse a Panama Sunrise into a German suplex, but then when Carl went for the Brainbuster, Adam Cole reversed that into the Panama Sunrise. I was like, man, we are not in Toto anymore, Kansas. Cole then lowered the knee because he was going to hit the boom when, of course, Josh Alexander decided, no, I don't like this. And we did get the disqualification, and just as everybody started to fight, out came Brody King. And I actually thought this was quite cool, because we were about to get Brody King versus Josh Alexander. So not only did he help out with a chair, but then he was ready to fight. So yes, look, I do really like this Cole versus Carl feud, because it just makes all the sense in the world, and it's going to help the TNT title. But let's really eke it out, man. Let's give us loads of reasons to care, because I think it actually could become one of the best things on the show, and this match proved it. Give it enough. Sadness did come next though, because yes, it was Brody King versus Josh Alexander to see who was going to get in that 4-way match for Kenny Omega's international title. But you know the deal, I love Brody King, I love Josh Alexander. This was like watching my kids fight. The positive spin is that Brody King did win, and we have been talking about this for a while as well. He loses way too much, so when he did get the W here, it was just a bit like, oh, my boy Brody, you finally did it. Listen, even though he won't, if he one day became the international champion, I wouldn't mind at all. So when push comes to shove, I do think this was the right call, especially in terms of morals. At one point, Josh Alexander was strangling Brody King with his t-shirt. And when he got out of this, King was like, right, I'm getting instant revenge, because he took this piece of merchandise and he stuck it down Josh Alexander's throat. I do believe this is called the torture system. They were then using Rita the ring post, which was the worst idea, because one, Brody smacked his hand against the steel, so now he was in trouble. But given they were on the outside, King crushed Josh right into barricade. And how many times have we discussed this? In terms of wrestlers taking on our good friend Barry, nobody is a worse defender than Brody King. I mean, I actually think he hates it. The issue, of course, was by this point, Brody did have a bad hand, so even though he tried to do these things, Josh was like, listen, I'm a very talented pro wrestler, I can see you're hurt, and I'm going after the injury. That's what he did, and at one point Brody King tried a lariat, but he couldn't do it, because apparently his arm was like this. It wasn't. That's more akin to a snake. They also just kept dropping each other on the ring apron, including this mad German suplex. And remember this, my friends, these are two super big dudes. So it was big men slapping man meat, but I also actually think they were trying to murder each other. Alexander then made a terrible decision, because quite clearly he didn't watch the previous match, because he was mocking Brody King's moves, especially with barricade. So once again, he did get crushed when this just continued. Honestly, if you have 10 minutes today, you should watch it. They are two very talented dudes. But at one point, Brody went for the cannonball, but somehow Josh Alexander locked the ankle lock in. I just said lock twice, which makes me an idiot. They were throwing such bones. Eventually, Josh Alexander was bleeding somehow, which probably explains why he did miss the moonsault, because Brody got the knees up. He then fought through the pain. He hit the lariat. When he hit the gnarliest Gonzo bomb you'd ever seen, it made me go all oogly boogly. He did get the 1, 2, 3. He is in the 4-way. In fact, this was so good by the end of it, I was like, man, who even cares about winners or losers if that's the kind of quality you are going to deliver me? I think Taz even went, well, that was like being hit with a bowling ball. That is totally true. It's getting a massive up. We then saw Carl Fletcher in the back going, oh, I didn't need any help. Why did you interfere? I was like, dude, you joined the Don Callis family. That's like getting a job at McDonald's and going, man, I don't want to make burgers. Of course, Adam Cole then ran in as they started to brawl, so this feud must continue. When we got to our main event segment, Mercedes Moné came out and said, ha, I did win the Owen Hart tournament. I am the best winner. I'm even better than Owen Hart and Eddie Guerrero. And it also means at All In, I'm becoming the champion. Toni Storm was obviously backstage going, if she even mentions that I'm going out there, but here she came. Now, I truly believe if we build this way, when we get to All In, they could potentially main event the thing, because that's how good this can be. And the barb started, because Mercedes was like, oh, there she is, Miss Black and White. Well, everybody's sick of that, and now that championship needs some color. Now, Toni made sure to say some nice things about Mone too, because she was like, you have been here for 441 days, and you have said nothing to me, and sure, you've gone out there and you're undefeated. You're doing a very good job. They've also been watching each other even before they joined All Elite Wrestling, and when it comes to matches and ones that the timeless person wants more than anyone, well, it would be her versus Mercedes, and now we are only 47 days out. Toni even said that she'd been talking to Anthony Khan and asking for this, when Mercedes was like, listen, you just need to calm down, because not only am I the Beyonce of wrestling, but I'm like the revolution, and I'm the best, and I'm the woman, and everyone should talk to me about pro wrestling. When Storm had the best comeback, because she heard all these lines, and she was like, well, that's great, darling, but I'm the Toni Storm of wrestling. You need to hear her deliver this. It was just so well done, and somehow was absolute genius. Moné then talked about the fact that they had met 10 years ago and Toni Storm was no longer the nervous girl she once was, but Mercedes Moné has changed too, because she's no longer the boss, she is the CEO. She is also one of the best women wrestlers in the world, which is why that belt is coming home to her at All In after the greatest women's match of all time. I don't think they need to put this pressure on themselves. It doesn't even matter if it's not. As long as it's super duper good and we enjoy it, that is enough, man. Not everything has to be 6.25 stars in the Tokyo Dome. Storm then replied they'd had similar journeys because they did struggle on the indies before leaving another place, wink wink nudge nudge, because they didn't get their flowers when they finally arrived at AEW, when they became the people they were meant to be. However, the big difference between Toni Storm and Mercedes Moné is that she wants all the belts, whereas Toni just needs one. She was talking about the AEW Women's Championship, because that is the belt that she has bled for, cried for, and died for. My hand went up because I can't help it. I was like, listen, Toni, I'm a big fan of yours. You did not die for that title because I'm looking at you right now. I know you're just trying to be poetic and you're trying to make it mean something. Just wanted to point it out. We then made some sexual innuendos, talking about the Toni tunnel and the Monet train and trying to go deep into a hole, and then Mercedes talking about hip size. When Toni was like, listen, there will be a young girl that watches us fight and she will be inspired when she's like, those bitches are crazy. And while Toni does think that Monet is the best of all time, there's a problem here, my friend, because Toni Storm is timeless. Once again, that's a very good line. I mean, in one way, it doesn't make any sense, but that's the best thing about wrestling, and of course, Mercedes disagreed with this. When they did that aggressive handshake and they pulled each other into the other one, and I think Toni was like smelling a hand, because why wouldn't you do that? When Mercedes tried to attack her, but Toni stopped it, so Toni tried to attack her, so Monet ran away. Well, I kid you not, they danced. I mean, I'm not 100% sure I would have done that, but you know me. I'm still the same old G, and that G stands for Goofy Wrestling. I do believe it's for life. Now, so this was a great way to kick off this feud, and given we do have so much time, I do think eventually they're gonna have to get way more aggressive, and maybe even break character a little bit. I don't mean that in a bad way, but if there are just chinks in the armor of Toni Storm, and she's a bit like, man, you have got under my skin, I really think people are gonna buy in, and again, the potential here is massive. Giving it an up. So once again, in terms of coming off Double or Nothing, I thought AEW did everything they did need to do here, and we're already hinting at what we are going to do at All In. And yes, you could have the men's title match as the main event, you could have this as the main event. You're going to have the choice, I believe, if we do get it correct. The overall show is getting an up. Now, of course, please do let me know how wrong or right I am in the comments below. Like the video, share the video, and subscribe. Click the video on the screen, which is my ups and downs for Double or Nothing, to get all the information. Now I must go lay down because it's boiling hot in the UK, but I appreciate it, my friends. See you soon.